is this the Visit Rwanda campaign, or you're just a fan of the country?
I'm a fan of the country, but also, you know, I'm teaching a workshop this weekend for actors and filmmakers. You know, there are compelling stories in East Africa, you know what I mean? And I've built relationships with filmmakers in Uganda, Kenya, South Africa. So it's time to build relationships with Rwanda as well, you know, along with Burundi. So I think that, you know, the future of filmmaking is definitely in Africa, because the stories are, you know, in America we see the same stories recycled different ways, but, you know, there are stories off the continent that we have no clue. And the stories that I'm hearing, I'm like, oh. I've heard in the last couple of weeks, man, there's so many films that I'm like, man, that could be a film. That could be a film. Or this could be a film. Or that could be a TV show. So it's like, you know, let's build that bridge, you know, yeah.
I mean, you've been in the industry, the movie-making industry, since at least 1998.
You're aging me, brother. Yeah. The first time I was on TV was 1997.
1997.
21 years of being on TV, yeah. Yeah,
my God.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
You watch yourself get old.
All right. Now, tell me something rather very interesting is that if someone follows your activity, does see that you normally tag the Africa that they don't show you. Now, this, I kind of try to incorporate it in my intro, that African filmmakers are actually taking it onto themselves to change the narrative on the continent. Now, you as someone from the Hollywood, I mean, one of the biggest, of course, in the world at filmmaking, and a lot of money being churned into that. Yeah. What do you see as the biggest challenge that African movie makers face to date?
Well, you know, it's any challenge with any filmmaker if you're not inside the club. So African Americans, we have a challenge in telling our stories correctly without the narrative being changed, without, you know, someone outside of our hue being the great savior. You know, sometimes they want to change the hero into another complexion. All right. You know what I'm saying? So we have to take control of our stories and tell our own stories and tell them correctly. You know what I mean? So this workshop this weekend is basically just to give them a little bit of an insight, because we have to train at our craft. You know, I hear a lot of people in America, they wake up and say, I want to be an actor, but they don't know what it takes to become an actor. You know, I'd like to play the guitar like Jimi Hendrix or sing like Marvin Gaye, but I can't just get up on stage and do it. You know what I mean? So we have to learn the craft and understand what it takes to become an artist.
In the same sense, what you're trying to say is that there is a lack of facility and education for actors or cinematographers.
Well, there's a lot of education, but I think that we have kind of a fast food way of trying to get to, you know, you see Denzel and say, I want to be Denzel, but don't understand Denzel went to school and he did theater for 30, 40 years before we knew who Denzel was. You know, I think he did his first play in the early 1970s. Denzel really didn't hit until the mid-'80s. You didn't know who Denzel was, but he's been on stage all this time. Same with Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman was on stage forever, but then you didn't know who Morgan Freeman was until he was in his 50s. You know what I mean? But these guys have been working on their craft and working on their craft and working on their craft, and then when it's their time, you know, when it's your time to shine, you're ready, you know.
So. When people talk about African movie industry, of course it's synonymous to Nollywood. Yeah. Most of the times that's what comes up, because we know that in the early 2009s it beat Hollywood to become the second biggest actually in the world, and they made up to $3.3 billion. I can't bring the numbers right, but today, I mean, we've seen a very big decrease in the number of maybe investment going into that industry. But also speaking from an African perspective or from an African mind, this is only Nigeria, but we're looking at good 54 countries on the continent. What needs to be done to see that when we talk movie industry, we don't just talk Nigeria or Nollywood, but we talk the likes of Hollywood right here in Kigali, we talk South Africa, we talk Ghana, Liberia, which was actually the first to do this.
Well, you know, like I said, you have to get that community. You know, what I know about the few Nigerians I know, they have that hustle mentality. They're going to get it done, you know, and Nigerians will stick together to get that product out, you know. So the beautiful thing is I've been meeting a few people, like I said, in Uganda and Kenya, that we have projects that we want to see shot. You know, one project we're going to shoot in Uganda in January. So we have to say, this is the project we're going to do. We're going to shoot it and we're going to see it to the end. So you have to have that follow through and know that it is, you know, possible to be made. You know, you just have to say, all right, what's a good story? Let's get the best scripts. Let's get the best actors, the best directors, and best filmmakers, and let's tell this story. So we do this story, and then the next time we'll do your story, or his story, or her story. You know, but it's just about getting that first one done and continue and having a plan of saying that we're going to continue doing this. You know, and I met 2 filmmakers last night, so I'm eager to see the short films that they've directed. But it's one of those things where, when we raise money, you know, we have to donate money to these projects that we believe in, because, you know, you have to pay the bills. You know what I mean? And I know Nigeria, they have a lot of money in Nigeria. What is it? 25 million people just in Lagos alone. Yeah. So they're going to connect. They're going to bring their community together to get this. You know, say, okay, $10 here, $100 there, and we've raised the money to shoot this film. You know what I'm saying? So we have to have that same mindset. So if you say, hey, I got a film, you say, okay, let's have a dinner, let's have a party, and say, we need to raise money, and this is how much the film is going to cost, and this is the plan for it, you know. So we have to continue to have that community and environment and just say, let's get our projects made.
Morocco, Tariq Cousins was a huge success, if I may say.
Was he?
He was. Tariq Cousins was really huge, that you don't necessarily need to say Lucious Lyon or Terrence Howard to get to that. But you have a movie coming up, actually theater. Yeah. Pipeline. What's your role on Pipeline? What are you doing on Pipeline?
Well, Pipeline is a play that we did at Lincoln Center last summer.
All right.
And, you know, it got great reviews, and they said, well, let's film this. So we thought it was just going to go on TV, you know, and they were going to show it. But it's going to be released in theaters in October, so it's crazy. But I play a father who's divorced from his wife, and we have a teenage son who's in a boarding school who's having some problems. He's dealing with racism, you know. So he, you know, at that age, 16, 17, 18, where, you know, we're coming into our manhood, the emotions are changing, you know, we're going through puberty. He's lashing out. He's lashing out because of the relationship with his father, who no longer lives with him, and he's lashing out, and he's trying to deal with racism, you know, in a predominantly Caucasian school. So, and because he's an African American, any little thing, he's brought up on charges, you know. Whereas if someone else does it, Caucasian, it's just like a slap on the hand, like, okay. But because he's black, he's singled out, you know. So he's dealing with this. And me, as the father, I get wind of it. He slams his teacher into I don't want to give away the story, but he slams his teacher into the chalkboard. And they're talking about kicking him out of school. Oh. You know, so this affects his, you know, this goes on his record for any university, because they're going to say, okay, well, why did he get expelled from a school? Right. So any, you know, great university he wants to go to, now his record comes in, you know what I'm saying? So I come in and we have, and me and his mother, we have different ideologies and how to deal with it, and, you know, and that's where the conflict comes in now.